The midnight knock. Blood. There was blood on Sarah's doorstep, a crimson handprint smeared across her white door at 11:58 p.m., and the 25-year-old man standing before her was holding a knife, blade pointed not at her, but at his own chest. "Mrs. Mitchell," he gasped, his ocean blue eyes wild with desperation. "I need you to call 911. But not for me. For the woman I just found in apartment 4B. She's dying, and someone in this building did it." Sarah's heart stopped. Apartment 4B was directly below hers. She'd heard nothing. No screams, no struggle. How was that possible? At 47, she'd survived enough trauma to recognize danger, and every instinct screamed at her to slam the door. But something in the young man's face, terror mixed with desperate sincerity, made her pause. His hands were shaking so violently that the knife clattered to the ground between them. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over her thundering pulse. She knew him only as the handsome new neighbor who'd moved in 3 weeks ago, the one who smiled at her in the elevator and always held doors open. His sandy brown hair was disheveled, his fair skin pale with shock. "My name is Ethan Cole," he said, tears streaming down his chiseled face. "And in about 20 minutes the police are going to think I killed her. But I swear on my life, Sarah, I found her like that. I need you to believe me because you're the only one who might understand what really happened in this building." What did he mean, the only one who might understand? Sarah's blood ran cold. Her secret. The one she'd buried for 15 years. There was no way he could know. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, her fingers trembling as she gave the address. Ethan stood frozen in her doorway, covered in someone else's blood, looking simultaneously dangerous and heartbreakingly vulnerable. When she hung up, she did something that would change everything. She stepped aside and let him in. "You have exactly 18 minutes before the police arrive," she said, her long silky blonde hair falling across her face as she closed the door behind him. "Start talking." Ethan's eyes met hers, really met them for the first time. In that moment, something electric passed between them. An instant recognition of two broken souls finding each other in the darkest possible circumstances. "Her name was Jessica Hartley," Ethan began, pacing her living room like a caged animal. His athletic build moved with desperate energy, and despite the horror of the situation, Sarah found herself noticing the sharp line of his jaw, the way his wet t-shirt clung to his muscular frame. She mentally scolded herself. A woman was dying. This wasn't the time. "I heard screaming around 11:45, he continued. "It stopped suddenly, too suddenly. I went to check because I used to be a paramedic before." He trailed off, pain flickering across his features. "Before I lost my license. When I tried Jessica's door, it was unlocked. I found her on the kitchen floor with stab wounds to her abdomen. I tried to stop the bleeding, but there was so much, and then I saw." He stopped abruptly, his eyes fixed on Sarah with an intensity that made her stomach flip. "What?" she pressed. "What did you see?" "A photograph. On her coffee table. Photo of you, Sarah. From 15 years ago. With a red X drawn over your face." The room tilted. Sarah grabbed the back of her couch for support, her perfect figure suddenly looking fragile and small. 15 years ago. Before she'd changed her name, before she'd fled across the country, before she'd rebuilt her entire identity as a successful architectural consultant living quietly in Seattle. "That's impossible," she whispered. "No one knows who I was. No one knows what happened." Ethan stepped closer, and despite everything, she felt the heat radiating from his body. "Then we have about 15 minutes for you to tell me. Because whoever attacked Jessica is still out there, and clearly they're coming for you next." Outside, sirens began to wail in the distance. Sarah's hands shook as she poured them both bourbon, good Kentucky stuff she kept for emergencies. This definitely qualified. Ethan accepted the glass, their fingers brushing, and she felt that spark again. Inappropriate, terrifying, undeniable. "You first," she said, settling onto the couch opposite him. "You said you lost your paramedic license. Why?" His jaw tightened. "That's not. If we're going to trust each other with our lives, Ethan, we need full honesty. No armor, no deflection." She held his gaze steadily. I've spent 15 years hiding. I'm not doing it anymore. Something shifted in his expression, respect maybe, or recognition. He set down his bourbon and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. 2 years ago, I responded to a car accident outside Denver. Woman trapped in a burning vehicle. Protocol said wait for fire rescue. I didn't wait. He swallowed hard. I pulled her out. Saved her life. Destroyed my back in the process and developed a dependency on painkillers to function. Got caught stealing from the supply cabinet. License gone, career over, reputation shattered. You saved someone's life and got punished for it? I broke the rules. His voice carried bitter acceptance. Doesn't matter that she lived. Doesn't matter that her 6-year-old daughter still sends me birthday cards from Colorado. The system doesn't care about context. Sarah felt her walls crumbling. This man, this beautiful broken man who'd sacrificed everything to save a stranger, was now covered in blood and about to be arrested for murder. The universe had a cruel sense of irony. The woman I was 15 years ago, Sarah began slowly, lived in Chicago. I was an investigative journalist, working on exposing a human trafficking ring with connections to several prominent businessmen. One of them was named Victor Ashworth. Ethan's eyes widened. The tech billionaire? The one who just bought half of Silicon Valley. He wasn't a billionaire then. Just rich and connected enough to be untouchable. I got close, too close. I had evidence that could have put him away forever. Then my source disappeared, my apartment was ransacked. And I woke up one night to find someone standing over my bed with a knife. She paused, the old terror clawing at her throat. Ethan reached out and took her hand. His touch was warm, grounding, and inexplicably comforting. I barely escaped, she continued. Witness protection wouldn't take me. Not enough evidence for prosecution, they said. So I ran. Changed everything about myself. Built a new life, a safe life, a lonely life. And you never published the story? The evidence was stolen. Without it, I was just a paranoid woman making accusations against a powerful man. Tears burned her eyes. Victor Ashworth went on to build his tech empire. He's worth $12 billion now. And apparently, he never forgot about me. The sirens were closer now, maybe 3 blocks away. Ethan, why would Jessica have my photo? I've never seen her before. He squeezed her hand. I don't know. But I think she was investigating something. I saw research materials scattered around her apartment, printouts, notes. What if she discovered the same thing you did 15 years ago? What if she was going to expose Ashworth? And someone killed her for it? Sarah's mind raced. But why mark my photo? Why involve me now after all these years? A knock at the door made them both jump. A deep voice boomed. Seattle police. Open up. Ethan's face went pale. Sarah, I know this is insane. I know you have no reason to trust me. But I did not hurt that woman. And if I go to prison for this, whoever really did it will come for you next. And there'll be no one left who knows the truth. The pounding intensified. Police. Open the door now. Sarah made a decision that would alter the course of her life forever. She grabbed Ethan's blood-stained shirt and yanked it over his head, balling it up and shoving it under her couch cushion. From her hall closet, she pulled one of her ex-husband's old Seahawks sweatshirts and threw it at him. Put this on. You were here with me all night. We're neighbors who became friends. You came over at 9 p.m. to watch a movie, and we've been together ever since. Sarah, you could go to prison for this. Then I guess we'll be cellmates. She allowed herself the smallest smile. Now stop arguing and answer the door with me. And try to look less like a murder suspect. Detective Marcus Webb was a 60-year-old black man with salt and pepper hair and eyes that missed nothing. He interviewed them separately, then together, his gaze constantly flicking between their faces like he was reading a story they weren't telling. So let me get this straight, he said, his voice deceptively casual. You two have been together since 9 p.m. Watching a movie. That's correct, Sarah said smoothly. What movie? The Proposal, she answered without hesitation. Sandra Bullock, Ryan Reynolds. I'd seen it before, but Ethan insisted. Ethan picked up the thread seamlessly. I have a thing for romantic comedies. Sue me. A paramedic who likes rom-coms. Webb's eyebrow arched. Former paramedic. People contain multitudes, detective. Webb studied them for a long moment. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her expression neutral. She'd spent 15 years perfecting the art of appearing calm while terrified. The victim is in critical but stable condition, Webb finally said. She might pull through. Sarah's breath caught. She's alive. Barely. 3 stab wounds, significant blood loss. Someone really wanted her dead. He leaned forward. Here's the thing that's bothering me. Her apartment door was unlocked. No signs of forced entry. She knew her attacker. That rules Ethan out, Sarah said firmly. He just moved here 3 weeks ago from Colorado. He barely knew anyone in the building. Doesn't rule him out, Ms. Mitchell. Just makes the motive less obvious. Webb stood, his knees cracking. Neither of you leave town. I'll be in touch. After he left, Sarah and Ethan sat in heavy silence. The clock read 1:47 a.m. Outside, the crime scene tape fluttered in a cold Pacific Northwest wind. Thank you, Ethan said quietly. You just committed a felony for someone you barely know. I've done worse. The words slipped out before she could stop them. He turned to face her fully, and something about his proximity made her breath quicken. Sarah Mitchell, you are the most confusing woman I've ever met. Is that your witty charm talking or genuine observation? Little bit of both. His lips quirked. I have to say, when I imagined meeting a beautiful neighbor under dramatic circumstances, this wasn't quite what I pictured. What did you picture? Borrowing sugar? Complaining about noise? Something with less blood, definitely. Maybe a meet-cute involving accidentally swapped Amazon packages. His eyes softened. Though I have to admit, watching you lie to a police detective with perfect composure was oddly attractive. Despite everything, the fear, the danger, the insanity of their situation, Sarah laughed. It felt foreign in her throat, rusty from disuse. You're flirting with me while we're both potential murder suspects. Like I said, people contain multitudes. Their eyes locked, and the air between them thickened. She could count his eyelashes from this distance, see the golden flecks in his blue eyes. This is a terrible idea, she whispered. The worst, he agreed, leaning slightly closer. Want me to stop? The moment stretched, infinite and terrifying. Then Sarah's phone buzzed, shattering the spell. She grabbed it, hands trembling. Unknown number. Text message. I know what you did 15 years ago in Chicago. Now Jessica knows too. When she wakes up, she'll tell everyone. Unless you stop her first. A friend. Sarah's blood turned to ice. She showed Ethan the screen. Someone is trying to frame me, she breathed. Make it look like I attacked Jessica to keep her quiet. Ethan was already on his feet. Then we need to find out who before Jessica wakes up, and the real killer tries to finish what they started. Asterisk if you're as desperate to know what happens next as Sarah is, hit that like button now. Your support helps more people discover this story. Asterisk. The next 48 hours were a blur of investigation, fear, and something else. Something growing between Sarah and Ethan that neither could fully name. They started by researching Jessica Hartley. She was 28, a freelance journalist from Boston specializing in tech industry exposés. Her social media was sparse but professional, and her published work revealed a sharp, fearless writer who wasn't afraid to tackle powerful subjects. She's exactly like you were, Ethan observed, scrolling through her articles on Sarah's laptop. Young, brilliant, going after the untouchable. Sarah stood behind him, close enough to smell his shampoo. Something clean and piney. She'd given him her guest room after they'd agreed it wasn't safe for either of them to be alone. Victor Ashworth just closed a massive merger last week, she said. Worth billions. If Jessica was investigating him, she might have found something that could derail the deal. So he had her attacked to silence her. But why involve you? Why bring up your old identity now? To muddy the waters. Create another suspect. If the police are chasing ghosts from 15 years ago, they're not looking at him. Ethan turned in his chair, his face level with her stomach. He looked up at her, and the angle was suddenly intimate. You said there was evidence, he murmured. Evidence that was stolen. What if it wasn't destroyed? What if someone's been sitting on it all these years waiting for the right moment? Sarah's mind raced. Jessica might have found it. That's why she had my photo. She was connecting the old case to a new investigation. Then we need to get into her apartment. See what she was working on. It's a crime scene. Crime scenes don't stay sealed forever. And I happen to know the building superintendent owes me a favor. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Already making friends? Mr. Patterson's wife had a heart arrhythmia episode last week. I showed him how to check her pulse and when to use their home defibrillator. Amazing how helpful people become when you save their loved ones. He grinned, and despite everything, Sarah felt her heart skip. You're dangerous, Ethan Cole. I prefer resourcefully charming. They entered Jessica's apartment at 3 a.m. through a back stairwell, Mr. Patterson's master key trembling in Ethan's hand. The yellow crime scene tape was still up, but the police had finished processing hours ago. Inside, the evidence of violence was stark. Bloodstains on the kitchen floor. Knocked over furniture, shattered glass. Sarah forced herself to breathe evenly, pushing down the memories of her own attack 15 years ago in Chicago. Over here, Ethan whispered from the living room. He was staring at a corkboard that the police had apparently dismissed as irrelevant decor. But Sarah saw immediately what he saw: layers of photographs, newspaper clippings, and handwritten notes, all connected by colored strings. At the center was a photo of Victor Ashworth. Surrounding it were images of properties, shipping manifests, and faces Sarah didn't recognize. And in one corner, almost hidden, was the photo of herself, younger, with shorter hair and working at the Chicago Tribune, but unmistakably her. She was rebuilding your investigation, Ethan breathed. Updating it for present day. Sarah studied the connections, her journalist instincts awakening from their 15-year slumber. These shipping manifests. They're from Ashworth's tech company, but the dates don't match product launches. They're moving something else through ports in Long Beach and Houston. Same operation, different decade? Evolved. More sophisticated. She pulled out her phone and started photographing everything. He never stopped. He just got better at hiding it. A noise from the hallway froze them both. Footsteps approaching slowly. Ethan grabbed Sarah's arm and pulled her toward the bedroom. They barely made it inside the closet before the apartment door creaked open. Through the slats, Sarah watched a figure enter, tall, dressed in black, moving with practiced silence. They couldn't see the face, but she could see the gloved hands, the purposeful stride. The figure went straight to the corkboard and began ripping down photos, stuffing them into a bag. They were destroying Jessica's evidence. Ethan's body pressed against Sarah's in the cramped closet space. She could feel his heart pounding against her back, his breath hot on her neck. Under any other circumstances, the intimacy would have been overwhelming. Now it was terrifying for entirely different reasons. The figure paused, tilting their head as if listening. Sarah stopped breathing. Then, footsteps retreated. The door closed. Silence. They waited 5 agonizing minutes before emerging. The corkboard was stripped bare, all the photos, all the evidence gone. Except, they missed one. Sarah pulled a folded paper from beneath the couch, where it had apparently fallen during the intruder's hasty collection. She unfolded it with trembling fingers. It was a handwritten list of names. At the top, witnesses, priority targets. Sarah's name was number 3, crossed out and marked with relocated, Seattle confirmed. But it was the name at number 1 that made her gasp. Elena Thompson, she read aloud. Who is Elena Thompson? Ethan's face had gone pale. I know that name. She was the nurse. The one who helped me during the fire rescue in Colorado. The woman whose daughter sends me birthday cards. Sarah stared at him. Elena Thompson was your accident victim? Sarah, Elena was at that accident because she was fleeing someone. She told me right before she lost consciousness. They found me. Tell them to look at the Phoenix Protocol. I thought she was delirious from the crash. I never reported it. The Phoenix Protocol. Sarah's mind raced. That has to be Ashworth's operation. Elena must have been a witness too. She was running just like I did. She's still alive. She recovered and moved to Portland. I have her contact information. Then we need to find her before they do. Sarah grabbed his hand. Ethan, we're not just clearing your name anymore. We're stopping something much bigger. Everything Sarah believed about her safety is about to shatter. Comment Phoenix if you're ready for the truth to come out, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens next. Elena Thompson lived in a modest Portland suburb, her recovery from the accident still visible in her careful movements. When she opened her door to find Sarah and Ethan on her porch, her face cycled through shock, fear, and finally resignation. I wondered when someone would come, she said, stepping aside. I didn't expect it to be you, Ethan. Or you. She looked at Sarah with knowing eyes. I recognize you from the files. Chicago Tribune 15 years ago. Sarah's breath caught. You know who I am? I worked for Victor Ashworth for 8 years as his private nurse. I know everything. Elena's eyes were tired but clear. Including the real reason you had to disappear. The living room was small but warm, filled with photos of Elena's daughter at various ages. School pictures, soccer games, a trip to Disneyland. Sarah noticed Ethan's eyes lingering on one. A little girl with ribbons in her hair, laughing at the camera. Her name is Sophie, Elena said softly. She's 8 now. She still asks about the man who saved us on that highway. Ethan cleared his throat, obviously moved. She's beautiful. She's the reason I stayed silent all these years. The reason I ran instead of testifying. They threatened her, made it clear that if I spoke up, she'd never be safe. Sarah leaned forward. Elena, what is the Phoenix Protocol? Elena's hands trembled as she poured them coffee. Phoenix Protocol is Ashworth's private project. Human trafficking disguised as refugee relocation services. He identifies vulnerable people. Immigrants crossing the border, runaways, victims of natural disasters, and offers them new lives through his foundation. Instead, they're sold to the highest bidder. Labor exploitation worse. He's been doing it for 20 years, and he's untouchable because half the politicians in Washington have benefited from his philanthropy. The evidence I gathered 15 years ago was just the tip of the iceberg, but you got closer than anyone. That's why he tried to have you killed. Elena's voice hardened. I was there the night they attacked you in Chicago, Sarah. I didn't participate, but I knew. I've lived with that guilt ever since. The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. You were there. I was his nurse. I went everywhere with him. I saw everything but said nothing because I was afraid. Tears streamed down Elena's face. When Ethan pulled me from that burning car on I-70, I felt like it was the universe giving me a second chance. I was on my way to meet a reporter, Jessica Hartley. I was finally going to tell everything. But someone ran me off the road before I got there. It wasn't an accident, Ethan breathed. The fire, the crash, it was attempted murder. And now Jessica is in a hospital bed in Seattle barely alive, because she got too close to the truth. Elena gripped Sarah's hand. You have to finish this. You have to expose him. I'll testify, I'll give you everything I have, bank records, photos, recordings I've hidden for years. But you have to promise me that Sophie will be safe. Sarah looked at Ethan, saw her own determination reflected in his eyes. We promise, she said. Back in Seattle, armed with Elena's evidence and a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah and Ethan worked through the night compiling everything into a comprehensive file. The chemistry between them intensified with each passing hour. Accidental touches, loaded glances, the particular electricity of two people fighting for the same cause. You know, Ethan said around 4 a.m., leaning back in his chair with exhausted satisfaction. When I knocked on your door 2 nights ago, I definitely didn't picture us becoming partners in crime. Partners in crime fighting, Sarah corrected. Important distinction. Technically, we've broken into a crime scene, tampered with evidence, and lied to police. We're definitely criminals. He smiled that crooked smile that did dangerous things to her pulse. Just criminals with good intentions. The best kind. He stood, stretching muscles cramped from hours at the computer. His shirt rode up slightly, revealing a strip of toned stomach, and Sarah quickly looked away. I saw that, he teased. Saw what? You checking me out. It's okay. I've been checking you out since I moved into this building. Her cheeks flushed. That's inappropriate. Probably. Also accurate. He moved closer, and she found herself rooted to the spot. Sarah, I know this is the worst possible timing. We're in danger, there's a killer out there, we might both go to prison. But I need you to know that meeting you, even under these insane circumstances, is the best thing that's happened to me in years. Her heart hammered. Ethan. I'm not asking for anything. I needed you to know. In case everything goes wrong. His voice dropped. In case I don't get another chance to say it. She closed the distance between them before she could talk herself out of it. Her lips met his and the kiss was everything. Desperation and hope, fear and promise. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and for one perfect moment, the danger faded away. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. That was. I know. We should probably focus on the investigation. Probably. Neither moved. Finally, Sarah's phone shattered the moment with an incoming call. Unknown number again. She answered on speaker. Hello. Ms. Mitchell. The voice was smooth, cultured, terrifyingly familiar even after 15 years. You've been very busy tonight. Going through Jessica's things, visiting Elena Thompson in Portland. I'm impressed by your tenacity. Victor Ashworth. You should have stayed hidden, Sarah, he continued. But since you've decided to play this game, let me explain the rules. You have something I want. I have something you want. What could you possibly have that I want? Detective Webb works for me. Has for years. Right now he's preparing an arrest warrant for your young friend there, Ethan Cole. Murder charges. And before you think your alibi will save him, I should mention that we have a witness who will testify they saw Ethan leaving Jessica's apartment covered in blood. Security footage, too. Amazing what technology can fabricate these days. Ethan's face went white. What do you want? Sarah asked through gritted teeth. Everything Elena gave you. Every document, every photo, every recording. Bring it to the parking garage of the Ashworth Tower downtown tonight at midnight. Come alone. If you comply, Ethan stays free, and I'll let you both live out your sad little lives in peace. If you don't, I'll be there. Excellent. And Sarah? Don't try to be clever. I've been playing this game far longer than you. The line went dead. Sarah and Ethan stared at each other, the weight of the impossible choice pressing down on them. You're not going, Ethan said firmly. He'll have you arrested. Then I'll fight the charges. But you walking into his trap alone? That's a death sentence. He gripped her shoulders. Sarah, I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself for me. And I'm not letting an innocent man go to prison because I ran away 15 years ago instead of fighting. Her voice broke. I've been hiding so long, Ethan. I forgot who I was. The woman who chased stories, who believed in truth, who wasn't afraid of powerful men. You reminded me. In 2 days, you reminded me that there's still something worth fighting for. His eyes glistened. Sarah. If I don't do this, he wins. Again. More people disappear into his operation, more lives destroyed. Elena spent 8 years too scared to speak. Jessica almost died trying. I won't run anymore. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Then we do it together, he whispered fiercely. We go in with a plan, back up something. You're not facing him alone. She pulled back, touching his face. I have an idea. But you're going to have to trust me. With my life. Asterisk, what happens next will determine everything. Sarah's freedom, Ethan's future, and the fate of everyone trapped in Victor Ashworth's web. If this story has kept you watching, please share it with someone who loves a good mystery. Now let's see how it ends. Asterisk. Midnight at Ashworth Tower. Sarah entered the parking garage alone, as instructed, carrying a briefcase full of documents. Her heels echoed in the concrete cavern, each step bringing her closer to the man who had haunted her nightmares for 15 years. Victor Ashworth emerged from the shadows like a specter. At 60, he was still handsome in a cold, polished way. Silver hair, tailored suit, the eyes of a predator. Sarah Mitchell. he said, savoring her name. The one that got away. You aged well, I must say. I wish I could say the same. His smile was thin as a blade. Sharp as ever. I always admired that about you. Such a waste that you chose the wrong side. There's no wrong side when you're exposing human trafficking. There's only winning and losing, Sarah. You lost. Now the documents. She held the briefcase closer. First, I want your guarantee. Ethan stays free. The charges disappear. Once I have Elena's evidence, Mr. Cole becomes irrelevant. You both can disappear back into your pathetic lives. How do I know you'll keep your word? You don't. His smile widened. But you don't have a choice. She hesitated, then extended the briefcase. As Ashworth reached for it, the parking garage flooded with light. Cameras, dozens of them, activated simultaneously from every corner, streaming live. What is this? Ashworth demanded, his composure cracking for the first time. This is journalism, Sarah said calmly. Every major news network is receiving this feed right now, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, all of them. Every word you've said, every threat, every admission. The evidence Elena gave us isn't in this briefcase, Victor. It's already been sent to the FBI, the DOJ, and 3 different newspapers including my old colleagues at the Tribune. You're bluffing. Am I? She pulled out her phone, showing him the live viewer count. 47,000 people watching right now. Growing every second. Hard to make someone disappear when the whole world is watching. Ashworth's face contorted with rage. You think this changes anything? I own people in every agency, every newsroom. Not all of them. And not anymore. Sarah stepped closer, finding strength she'd thought she'd lost forever. I spent 15 years running from you. Hiding. Surviving. But survival isn't living. You took that from me. Tonight I'm taking it back. From the shadows, Ethan emerged with Elena at his side. Behind them, a different detective, FBI Special Agent Rodriguez, who had been investigating Ashworth for months without enough evidence to move forward. Victor Ashworth, Rodriguez said, his voice carrying the weight of justice delayed. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, human trafficking, corruption of public officials, and about a dozen other charges we're still compiling. Ashworth looked at Sarah with pure hatred. This isn't over. You're right, she said. It's just beginning. For the first time in 20 years the truth is out. And the truth doesn't hide, Victor. The truth doesn't run. The truth burns like phoenix fire, and you can't put it out. As federal agents swarmed the garage, Ashworth was led away in handcuffs, his empire crumbling in real time as the live stream went viral. Ethan reached Sarah, pulling her into his arms. She collapsed against him, 15 years of tension finally releasing. You did it, he breathed. We did it. She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. All of us. Elena, Jessica, everyone who ever suffered under his operation. Their courage made this possible. 3 months later, Sarah stood at the window of her apartment, watching the Seattle skyline at sunset. The city looked the same, but everything had changed. Victor Ashworth was awaiting trial in a federal detention center, his assets frozen, his operation dismantled. Over 200 trafficking victims had been identified and rescued across the country. Elena was in witness protection with Sophie, finally safe. And Jessica Hartley had made a full recovery, returning to journalism with the biggest story of her career, one she and Sarah had written together. Sarah had returned to journalism too, not hiding from her past but embracing it. Her investigation into the Phoenix Protocol had won her a Pulitzer nomination and speaking invitations from around the country. But tonight, none of that mattered as much as the man standing behind her. Penny for your thoughts? Ethan asked, wrapping his arms around her waist. She leaned back into him, savoring the now familiar warmth. They'd been together officially for 2 months, though it felt like they'd known each other forever. I was thinking about midnight knocks, she said softly. How one moment can change everything. For better or worse? She turned in his arms, looking up at the face that had become her home. Better. Definitely better. He kissed her forehead. I have a confession. Another one? Are you secretly a serial killer after all? He laughed, that full, warm laugh she'd grown to love. No. I knew who you were before I knocked on your door that night. She pulled back. What? Jessica had talked to me a few days earlier. She was nervous, said she was investigating someone dangerous, and asked me to keep an eye on a woman in the building who might be in danger. She didn't give me your name, but she described you perfectly. His eyes were serious. When I found her that night, my first thought was protecting you. Not because of her request, but because in the 3 weeks I'd lived here, I'd noticed you. Really noticed you. The way you smiled at the elevator doors, even when you thought no one was watching. The way you always held the door for Mrs. Patterson, even when she moved at a snail's pace. The way you seemed alone but too proud to admit it. Sarah's throat tightened. You came to save me? I came because you mattered. I didn't know why yet. I just knew. He cupped her face. And now I know why. Because you're extraordinary, Sarah Mitchell. Because you survived something that should have destroyed you and came out stronger. Because you could have stayed hidden forever but you chose to fight. Because loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done. Even when everything else was impossible. Her eyes overflowed. Loving you. Is that okay to say? Yes. She kissed him, pouring 15 years of loneliness and 3 months of growing certainty into the gesture. Yes, it's okay. Because I love you too. Outside, the city lights began to flicker on. A million stories unfolding in a million windows. But in this one apartment, 2 people who had found each other in darkness held on tight, grateful for a midnight knock that changed everything. Some moments in life seem random. A knock at the door, a stranger covered in blood, a choice to trust when logic screams not to. But maybe those moments aren't random at all. Maybe they're exactly what we need, arriving exactly when we need them. Sarah learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's deciding that something matters more than being afraid. Ethan learned that saving people isn't always about heroic rescues. Sometimes it's just about showing up, staying present, and refusing to let someone face darkness alone. And together they proved that no matter how powerful your enemies, no matter how long you've been running, it's never too late to stop hiding and start living. The truth doesn't die. It waits like a phoenix, ready to rise from the ashes when someone is finally brave enough to speak it. Thank you for watching until the end. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that courage can bloom in the most unexpected moments, please let me know in the comments. Share your thoughts, your reactions, or even your own stories of midnight moments that changed everything. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for more stories that remind us what it means to be human, flawed, frightened, and absolutely capable of extraordinary things. Until next time, remember, every locked door has a key. Sometimes you just have to be brave enough to knock.